Hello, everyone. I'm Christina Joy, your events coordinator here at Sankofa Video Books and Cafe. We are located at 2714 Georgia Avenue Northwest, right across the street from the illustrious Howard University, HU. You know? No? No? Nobody knows? Dang. It's tough crowd today. All right. So tonight we have Dr. Andrea Sullivan in the house. Give her a round of applause. Dr. Andrea Sullivan is the author of The Sacrifices of Superwomen, Natural Remedies to Restore Balance. If that's not a title, y'all, come on. Like, goodness gracious. Oh, it's about to go in. Dr. Sullivan was the first African American to receive a PhD in sociology and criminology from the University of Pennsylvania, and the first to receive a degree in naturopathic medicine from Bastyr University. She is a licensed naturopathic physician with 36 years of experience, a founding member of the American Association for Naturopathic Physicians, and was appointed by the mayor of Washington, D.C. to serve on the Board of Medicine. She has also received an honorary Doctor of Science degree from Sojourner University, a dynamic and inspiring lecturer, author, and TV and radio guest. She is passionate about exposing the effects of racism and sexism on the health and well-being of our society. Let's give it up for Dr. Andrea.
I need this for the YouTube, you think? Okay, all right. Hi, everybody. Hello. So, I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful that you all came out on this cold evening, and I know there's lots of other places where you could be tonight, like home. So just for a moment, I want us to close our eyes and take a deep breath in through your nose and breathe out through your mouth. See if you can get the count of 6 through your expiration. And in again through your nose and out through your mouth. And one more time. And this time I want you to ask yourself, why did I come here? What can I do to improve my health? What is one thing I could do? What is one thing I could commit to improve my health? Okay, open your eyes. So just keep that in mind, that one thing. And then I want you to, if you have a little piece of paper or something, I want you to write down what you had for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Or if you remember it, that's fine too. But I want you, I'm going to collect them, so just kidding. I used to teach at Howard years ago. I taught sociology. I have a PhD in sociology and criminology from the University of Pennsylvania, as she mentioned. And so years ago, in the 70s, I hate to say that, but that's what brought me here to DC to teach at Howard, because I was offered a position here. Then I left and moved to Seattle after doing a lot of things with my PhD, because it wasn't life calling. My calling is naturopathic medicine, and that's what I do now, and homeopathic medicine. And I can't tell you how grateful I am to be able to do it and to have my purpose and to know my calling and to be able to assist people as I do. My longtime dearest friend said to me several years ago, many years ago, when I was 10 years old, what do you want to be when you grow up, little girl? And I said, I want to save the world. Well, I'm not saving the world, I don't think, but I'm saving my world, the world that comes to me and the people that invest their heart and soul into my care. And that's very important to me because, as we all know, there's a lot of trouble in America. There's a lot of trouble in the people who are causing the trouble. So whatever the negative thoughts are, whatever the negative feelings are, the gossip, the self-hatred, all of those things have to change. We're very angry because we're angry with ourselves very often. We're angry with the person next door. We're angry with our relatives. We're angry with somebody. So you want peace? Stop being so angry. Stop being so angry. Stop the negative self-talk. That's part of what I say in the book. But I want to start with just some statistics, because what prompted me to write this book? When I found out that African American women die more from cancer than Caucasian women, we don't get cancer more, but we die more from it. So what is that about? What it's about is certainly this discrimination in the healthcare or sick care system, as I call it, but it's also because we take care of everybody else but ourselves. That's what we do. That's what we're famous for. So the other statistic is that 56.7% of us over 20 have hypertension. What is that about? And then 4 out of 5 of us are obese or overweight. Again, another statistic that was very, very concerning for me. And then we die more, of course, and get more cardiovascular disease, strokes, heart attacks, you name it. And it's just an ongoing circumstance that we have to stop. There are many more Amanda Gormans out there. You know who Amanda Gorman is? The young lady that did the poet laureate for Biden's inauguration. What I mean by that is there are many more out there, but they won't be discovered if we are ill all the time. They won't be discovered if they are ill all the time. So we have to do something about that to create a greater wellness, not just for ourselves, but for our communities. For our communities. And this book, by the way, is not just for African American women, but that's what prompted me to do it, because I'm African American. But any woman who is a single mom, even if the single mom is someone who has a husband who's a lawyer who's never home, that's another way to have the sacrifice of superwomen, because they're doing everything for everybody else but themselves and but ourselves. So that was the gist of why I wrote this book. Then, of course, diabetes is another huge concern in our community. We have over 50% of us are diabetic. Over 50% of all African American women are diabetic, and that goes with the being overweight, of course, and obese. So we have to think about the choices that we're making. That's another thing I say in the book all the time. Are you choosing to eat something that's good for you, or are you choosing to eat something that's not so good for you? So these statistics are really in the first part of the book, and they're important statistics. They're not to be laughed at or say, oh my God, we have to do something about them. So moving forward, what created this? So I talk about the idea of weathering. Weathering is a concept in sociology that speaks to how we have been torn down to sand and soil. Weathering is actually, in the dictionary, a definition of weathering is to how the wind and the atmosphere and everything wears down the soil and erodes the soil. Well, we have been weathered. We've been weathered by the experience of sexism. We've been weathered by the experience of racism. If we go back, for example, women couldn't even vote till 1920. 1920. So let's start there. Black men could even vote in 1868 before women could vote. Now, I know that doesn't make sense because, of course, we had poll tax and we had other kinds of literacy tests and all of that prevented black men from voting, but we were allowed to vote before women were allowed to vote. So that's how low down on the totem pole women were at the time. This was the reason for Sojourner Truth, who's the backdrop of my book. She was an abolitionist, she was a feminist, and she was the reason, this was the reason why she started in 1848 the Declaration of Sentiments. She met with women and men, one of whom was Frederick Douglass, who decided they needed to understand what women could do to create a better way for themselves. That was the purpose of the Declaration of Sentiments. Because women couldn't vote, women couldn't get custody of their children, women couldn't work outside the home. They were essentially the property of their husbands. Women couldn't get passports if they were married. A single woman might be able to get a passport, but not a married woman. A married woman would have to be on the passport of her husband. She couldn't own property. We couldn't go to medical school. We couldn't go to law school. We couldn't have jobs outside of the home. Essentially, we were the property of our husbands. So if you mix that with this whole history of slavery, this is the plight of the African American woman. So we have the intersectionality of sexism, and racism, not just sexism. So we've got a dual situation going on here. And I just want to read one of the passages from the book. So I have to put that down for a minute. Because it's important to understand, hopefully I can speak loud enough. It's important to understand what it is that I'm talking about when I talk about weathering. In sociology, the result of the adaptation is called weathering, adapting to sexism and racism. A term coined by Dr. Geronimus in 1992 at the University of Michigan. Geronimus spoke about the process by which natural agents as wind and water act upon exposed rock, causing it to disintegrate to sand and soil, wearing away or changing the appearance or texture of something by being exposed to the air. So I maintain that this weathering for us has been racism, has been sexism, has been the atmosphere of marginalization, of being a single parent, of not having enough money, of generational poverty, generational violence. That's the weathering that we've experienced. And that weathering is very, very, very crucial in determining what it is that we're going through. Again, I write, the dehumanizing experience we've endured for generations created a legacy of independence, strength, and self-determination. Our resilience and perseverance enabled us to survive socially and economically. We have captured and textured how to protect ourselves and our families and our communities. These adaptations have led us to become superwomen. But being a superwoman comes at a great expense. African American women who have been vigilant, strong, and resilient and brave in the face of tragedy have long suffered from the disproportionate health disparities and a shortened life expectancy. Even Superman had his kryptonite. So if you remember who Superman was, I'm dating myself, but Superman was affected by kryptonite. This has been our kryptonite. All of this discrimination, our sexism and racism. So in the book, I talk about what we can do to create a different way, right? First of all, let's just talk about race. There's no such thing. The word race was only developed in order to create the slave system. We are all one race, the human race. There are no such reasons anthropologically or sociologically to talk about race and separate ourselves by race. It's easy, sure, we can do it, but when you see someone on the street, don't think of them as that's a white person, that's a black person, that's a pink person. No, they're a human being. This is part of what has been uncovered, thanks to our former president, that, we have created this situation where we can't win if we keep doing that. We cannot win. We cannot continue to separate ourselves by race and expect to be healthy. Racism affects white people too. There are communities where they have tested, where tolerance is limited for African Americans, and the white people have more heart disease. The white people have more strokes and hypertension. So this is not something that just affects black people. Yes, of course it does, but whites are affected by racism as well. So let's try and let's do what we can do to create a sense that we are all one race. Racism affects you. It hurts you to be racist. It hurts you to have negative thoughts. It hurts you to hate somebody. It hurts you to maintain grudges. These are all things that I talk about in the book because this is all about health. And of course, we do all the time do those things, but we have to have a certain level of forgiveness. If we're not forgiving those mishaps, if we're not forgiving that misfortune, then it's like feeding yourself poison, as they say, but the other person is trying to die, or you're trying to make them die. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. We have to stop and have a different way. So the book is full of also meditations, thoughts about what you might do and how you might think differently to stop the gossip, to stop the negative self-talk. Most importantly, and the book is about other things that you might do, like drinking water. What a concept. I can't tell you how many people I say, how much water do you drink a day? Not enough. Okay. They think they can get it through juices. No, what you get through juices is diabetes. That's what you get through juices. They think they can get it through something else like coffee. No, what you get through coffee is caffeine, and that means that your bones will deteriorate faster because caffeine can excrete calcium from the urine. So that's what you get there. Or I'll get it from cocoa milk. No, milk is for baby cows, first of all. Let's start there. Milk is not for us. We're the only animal that drinks milk from another animal. You're never going to find a giraffe go to a kangaroo. It's never going to happen. Even cows don't go back to their mothers once their four stomachs are formed. They eat plants. They don't drink their mother's milk. So somebody said to me, well, we breastfed, and I just looked at them and said, you bless your mother. They're the same animal that you are. That's your mother's an animal. So anyway, yes, we do breastfeed, and that's it. But if you are breastfeeding at 32 years old, there's something wrong with that. There's something definitely wrong with that. So understand what you're doing. Why don't we put zebra milk on cereal? Because there are not enough zebras to go around. That's why. But there are plenty of cows. So the dairy farmer has us snowed in that regard. So we have to recognize what we're doing. And I love to talk about the stress of food because you add racism, sexism, food, and you've got a combination of disaster. Because most of the food we eat, and I put that in the book too, is not food. Food is to nourish and support your growth and your body and your cells. You might as well eat the cellophane that the food comes in because it's more nutritious for you than what the food is. You've got sugar. I did a seminar in Philadelphia over the weekend. One of the women had 4 Twizzlers, I'm not kidding, Oreos, a little bit of chicken, and some vegetables. But read the package of Twizzlers. The first ingredient is sugar. So if that's the first ingredient, that means there's a lot of it. The last ingredient was red dye number 4. So that's what you get. That's why I say you might as well eat the package. You might as well just eat the cardboard and eat the cellophane because that's better for you than the sugar and the red dye number 4. So be mindful of what you're eating. Don't just blindly pick up things and eat it. Understand that every bite is a bite toward wellness or a bite toward illness. That's just as simple as it is. Thomas Edison used to say, the doctor of the future will not give any medicine, but will be focused on the care and frame and nutrition of the human body. And that's what naturopathic physicians do. That's what we're trained in. We're trained in nutrition. We're trained in herbal medicine, homeopathic medicine. Those are my specialties. We're trained in things that are natural. Natural means nature, and pathos means suffering. So we're healing the suffering with something from nature. So don't just go into the store and pick up anything. And I realize that for some of the women who may be able to listen to this, but may not be able to afford organic, all right, because it can be expensive. I've heard that before. But maybe there's one thing you can buy that's organic. Maybe you can just buy 1 bushel of kale a week. Maybe that's all, and that's fine. But start somewhere. Start somewhere. Start anywhere. You can do this. Or the things that you don't peel, like kale, like carrots, like apples, those kinds of things. Try to get those organic because they have no protection. Blueberries, okay? But other fruits like bananas, cantaloupes, you can do that. It doesn't taste as good, but you could get them non-organic. But I wouldn't encourage that. So to the best of your ability, I would eat the foods that you know are really foods. Some of us, another chapter in the book, or section of the book, we're so concerned about pocketbooks and what we look like and things like that. And I say in my book, okay, you can have that $400 pocketbook and you can have diabetes with it. Or you can have that hair weave and you can have diabetes with that. But where are your priorities? Because it's up to us to take care of our health. It's not up to the doctor. Any doctor that doesn't mention nutrition to you is a drug dealer. They're not a doctor. Because nutrition is part of what makes you well or what makes you ill. So be clear about what you're doing. Ask your doctor questions. Don't let them get away with just 5 or 10 minutes of a visit. No. Ask them, well, what does this mean? I have so many patients who come and say, Dr. Sullivan, what does this blood work mean? You didn't ask your other doctor? No, because he didn't have time for me. That's a problem. That's a problem. The sick care system has turned into something where we don't listen and we don't get listened to. So we have to create a difference. And our responsibility is our health. Our health is our responsibility, not the responsibility of the doctor. You notice every commercial says, oh, ask your doctor. And every commercial is for a drug. You know that, right? Either liquid or tablet or spray or powder or something. Every single commercial is for a drug. They have the ones that people are dancing and people have a number of these colors and they're just fabulous. And they're drugs. That's what they are. And don't misunderstand me. I'm not a naturopath who believes that all the people who distribute drugs, all the conventional medical doctors should disappear. No, they are needed. But they're needed on the back end of life, not the front end of life. Do you get a headache from a lack of aspirin? No, is the answer. No. You get a headache because you're constipated, because you haven't had enough water. So we're circling back to the water. You get a headache because you didn't sleep. That's also in the book. You get a headache because you worry all the time. You get a headache because you haven't exercised. You get a headache because you ate something you shouldn't have eaten. So all of these things we have to think about. These are the reasons for ill health. It's not because of a lack of aspirin. Sure, when you get into a situation where it's a pounding headache and you don't know what else to do, okay, that's fine. But have you moved your bowels today? Have you had anything that resembles fiber? Have you had anything that resembles anything other than fish or chicken or something that, is fleshy, that doesn't move your bowels and doesn't give the colon anything to grip onto? No, you haven't. So sleep is also important. Same question. How much sleep do you get? Not enough. People say the same thing, not enough. I encourage people to go to bed the day before you get up. What does that mean? Go to bed before 12 o'clock, because you usually get up after 12 o'clock. Don't go to bed. People say, well, I get 8 hours. I go to bed at 1 and get up at 9. No. Go to bed the day before you get up, not the day you get up. It's very different. You will be amazed at the difference. You'll be amazed at how you feel. It's really miraculous. It's miraculous. I also suggest in the book that you take a hot shower, right, before bed, and nothing interferes with the shower and the bed. So not hot shower, look at my phone, answer some emails, read, listen to some music, and then go to bed. No, because you worked yourself back up to all of that, with all of that activity. And whatever you do, don't go to bed with the news on. The news is dangerous. The news creates illness. So we have a problem with, again, more stress hormones coming out. So you've got the stress of racism, you got the stress of sexism, you got the stress of the TV, you've got the stress of the news. What happens when we're stressed? When we're stressed, all of our stress hormones, like cortisol, that's what controls us, controls the hormones, that comes out, and that creates problems with your blood pressure and your blood sugar. That's what cortisol does. So when cortisol is high, those things run rampant. Those stress hormones run rampant. And it's very difficult to come back down from that without some type of meditation or exercise or foods that can bring back your sense of balance. So we want to restore the balance here. That's the purpose. That's the purpose of the book, to do simple things, not necessarily easy, but simple things that can restore balance. Drinking water. Again, I really have to go back to that. Without water, your brain is mostly water. Without water, you don't concentrate well, you don't feel well, you don't move your bowels, you don't think well, your memory is lost. Everything is different without water. Your blood is thicker, so it has to pump harder through your arteries. I mean, think about all the things that just water does. It's really an amazing substance, and you're not going to get it from tea and coffee and cocoa milk and all those things. Yes, you'll get some, but you can't get the amount of water that you actually need. You can get some through fruit, but you can't get the amount of water that you actually need. So you have to be mindful of what you're taking in your system again. At the back of the book, I have two important chapters, I think. One's on meditation, or spiritual exercises, as I call it. And the other's on the things that I think are important, like doing something good for yourself every day. Because self-love is self-care. It's not selfish. People say, well, I can't do this because I have to take care of so-and-so. Yes, you do have to take care of so-and-so, but for years I've been saying, Put the mask on yourself and then put the mask on someone else. Just like they say on the airplane. That's really, really important. You can't just keep putting the mask on other people and expect yourself to be well. It doesn't work like that. It really doesn't. So take some time for self-care. Take some time for self-love. Take some time for self-talk that is good for you, that is supportive of you, that inspires you. But all of the negative self-talk that we give ourselves, even something as simple as, oh, that was stupid. No, don't say that was stupid. Just say, that was an interesting choice, right? Because everything is. Everything is a choice. No matter what it is, everything is a choice. Every moment of every day, you have a choice. So choose wisely, because it's important. Prevention is really what's important. You don't want to get to the back end of life and you're hooked up to all the tubes and all the things that they will hook you up to. You want to walk in and walk out of the hospital, or walk in and go out in a bag, but not with all the tubes. But you have to take care of yourself now in order to do that. You can't wait. I started this journey when I was 29 because I had a face full of acne. I was tired all the time, and I was 30 pounds overweight. So now, and I said to myself, that's not going to be cute when I'm 70. So now I'm over 70, and I look better than I did when I was 29. So I encourage you all to start wherever you are, because at some point in life, if you live long enough and you care about your parents, you're going to be a superwoman. I did. I went through that process many times with my mother, with my father, but I always found a way to do something for myself, because it's important to support myself and not just be doing for other people. It really just does not work like that. I can't stress that enough. Make a choice, make a commitment, do something for yourself, and you'll be much happier that you did. You will not be thinking, oh, I didn't do this today. Imagine getting to the back end of life and having all these regrets. That's not what you want to be doing. That's not the way to go out of here. You want to say, I did the best I could, and I did it. And I did it the way that I could do it, and I did it the best I could do, and I'm here to show it. So I want to read one more thing to you before I take questions. And that is, it's time to say enough. Enough of the sedentary lifestyle, watching TV and snacking. Enough of eating poorly and being in a state of chronic fatigue. Enough struggling with your weight and enough putting off exercising regularly. Enough of the gossip, negative self-talk, not loving yourself, and not recognizing that you are your greatest asset. Enough of saying yes all the time and doing for everyone except yourself. Enough with thinking it is better to give than receive, since giving and receiving are part of the same system, part of the same energy. Just a minute. Sorry about that. They're part of the same cycle of abundance. Stop dimming your light so others can shine. Stop denying your worthiness. Stop the anger, the resentment, the guilt, and the shame that you carry every day. Let's reduce the dis-ease and medications. Let's restore balance. So I thank you, and I hope this book will bring you some peace, and I hope this book will also bring you some knowledge and information, but you have to use it. You have to do it. You know, Stokely Carmichael used to say, you want to keep something from people, hide it in a book. Black people, don't go there. Reading is important. Learning is important. Repetition is important. That's how we learn. So keep doing things. You're not going to sit down the first time you meditate and just go into this Zen state. You're not a guru. No, you might do it 1 minute, 10 times a day, but you have to start somewhere. So please start some new habit tomorrow. Commit to it, follow through, and keep it moving. Thank you. I'll take some questions.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Sullivan. Does anyone want to ask a question?
No? Okay. You just came in, young lady. You have a question?
I don't.
Okay.
Think so.
All right. Okay. Okay.
Excuse me. So you said that you started this journey at 29, and I'm curious to know, has a lot changed in the health landscape, like since you started your journey versus now, and like what are those things that have stuck out to you that changed?
Well, that's a good question. Yeah, because I was in the 4th graduating class at Bastyr University. At the time, Bastyr University was the only accredited naturopathic school, and I was the only African American in the school. So I was always confronted with, "Can I touch your hair?" "No." Or, "I don't have any black friends, so I'd like you to be my friend." "Okay, well, go get another one." So I dealt with all of that. Same thing at University of Pennsylvania, same thing. I was the only African American in the criminology department at University of Pennsylvania. So yes, a lot has changed because first of all, naturopathic medicine is, many more people know about it. That's why I came back to the East Coast, because the president of the school said, "Andre, why don't you stay here?" I said, "We all can't stay here and expect for naturopathy to grow. I've got to go back east because my people are there, because Seattle, there were very few black people, and my people need help. They need help." So here I am back on the East Coast, and finally we have a co-op, we have health food stores. We didn't have any of that when I first came back here. We had one, we had Yes. And I literally used to stand outside the door of Yes Food Market and give out flyers about my practice. That's what I used to do, literally, every other day, or many days. And that's how it started. But that was the only health food store. So lots has changed. And then, of course, the more we become vocal, the more physicians, conventional physicians, want to do something about that. So you may have experienced that they're not going to answer you, or they don't talk to you, or they do whatever they do, or they're rude. That's been my experience from my patients saying that to me. So the more we step up and the more we ask questions and the more we want to know, well, what is this? What's going on with my health? The more they will push back, perhaps. Not all of them, don't misunderstand me. I have some wonderful endorsements from some medical doctors in my book. So not all of them. Some of them are very aware of what they need to be doing. But it is a problem because they know, and for whatever reasons, they're afraid. There's enough sick people on the planet. They don't need to be afraid. They can keep their boats and Ferraris and all that. They don't need to be afraid. We're just doing what we do and what we do well, right? Because we do it well. We're well trained. And I'm glad you asked that also, because naturopathic physicians have as much, if not more, education than conventional medical doctors. We're in class more. We have the same level of and coursework, immunology, biology, genetics, all of that we get, all of that. And we're in class more than the conventional medical doctors. The one thing we may not have as many of is residencies, and that's coming. We treat people, not conditions. There are a few naturopaths that do indeed specialize in cardiology or the thyroid, because there's so many thyroid issues. That is one thing that I find myself dealing with a lot. But generally speaking, we treat a whole person. We want to know, who is this person? Because everybody has a story. Everybody has a story. The stories in my book are real. You know, the woman who takes care of her grandchildren all the time, the woman who took care of the children that she didn't know her husband had. I mean, just stories. And those stories create stress. And those stories create the stress that creates the inflammation that creates the disease. So we have to be aware of the stories of people. But most conventional medical doctors don't take the time for the stories. They just want to know what's your blood pressure. And that they take as soon as you walk in the door after rushing in for the appointment. So that can be a little skewed sometimes. And again, not all of them. So again, we have to be mindful of what it is that we're doing and how responsible we can be for our health. This is not anybody else's health. And you are your greatest asset. And where else are you going to live but in your body until you die? Where else are you going to live? Nowhere else. So you have to make some choices about what it is that you're doing or not doing. So yes, a lot has changed, and we are integrating when I first came here, people didn't know what naturopathy was. They didn't know. And now keep in mind, this was 1988. So they didn't know what naturopathy was. And so I can honestly say that I created some talk about naturopathy. And it was necessary because we need that as part of the system. We need to have more naturopaths because we're trained as primary care physicians. So we need to have more naturopaths that are involved in the healthcare system to create the healthcare system and not give in to the sick care system.
So just staying right there for a second. So conventional doctors, they are, they're not taught, you know, as you were saying earlier, to look at the person, right? So if their books are teaching them to prescribe,
right,
in everything that they do, then what is your viewpoint on how this would integrate more quickly? And I'll add to that because I follow economic flow, and the healthcare industry is opening up for people like you. People are getting IVs now. They're taking more herbs. They're going to Happy. It used to be Happy in Hyattsville, and you had yes. But, you know, people are becoming more aware of their bodies.
That's right.
And not what they were told in a book.
That's right.
What grandmama told them, because we've known of all of these remedies or healthcare options since we were little. Using your sock and you know, all these things, but they were like wives' tales. And because of the education of the books and telling us, oh, well, you need this drug for this ailment, and not realizing that you brought that ailment upon yourself via your food and lack of nutrition, because you're eating foods that are not living foods. You know, how do you see us integrating a little bit faster and getting the textbook physicians to see more of the other side of the fence?
Well, that's a great question. It has about 19 parts, so I will figure out which part I'm going to go for. I'll try to hit 17 anyway. Couple things. First of all, there are only 3 medical schools in the country that teach nutrition. We have courses in nutrition, year-long courses in nutrition. And if you specialize in nutrition, you have more than that. I had actually an OBGYN who's the wife of a dentist that I know. She said, we don't get nutrition. So she went back to school for nutrition. And I say hats off to her because she knew nothing about it, but she wanted to know about it because of reading my first book. That's number one. Number two, we brought many of these herbs to America with us as slaves. We use some of the same herbs. Horehound was a great herb for coughing and congestion. I use it today. Horehound, almost weekly, you know, for allergies and things like that. So we know what's in the plants because we had to know because the topography of West Africa was similar, especially to this area. And we knew, oh, look, if we beat that up and, you know, soak it and we do this, that, and the other, we can do what we did in West Africa. So we brought a lot of that medicine with us, and we had our little areas of planting that we had outside our little shacks, and we grew those herbs. Because let me tell you, the master did not want to let go of his stock and his income. So when the slave got sick, the master had to go to Sally in the field to get Sally to cook up something for the slave to take. So that, because Benjamin Rush and all those old boys were doing leeching and bloodletting and mercury and acrimony, those drugs were killing the slaves. So the people who were responsible, just like the midwives, they were very popular during those days. So in my first book, A Path to Healing, A Guide to Wellness for Body, Mind, and Soul, I talk about how we were the secret doctors. You couldn't say it, right? And the master couldn't say it, but we all knew it. And everybody on the plantation knew it. Go down there and get Sally. Go down there and get Lizzie. Go down there and get Mimi, whatever their names were. So we knew that we were incorporated in the system. Now, fast forward, you know, Big Pharma is Big Pharma. Big Pharma is not going to let go of that money too easily. but they're gonna have to when the people demand it. People demanded naturopathy. We couldn't do it. There's only a handful of us. But the reason why we are as popular as we are now is because people called their insurance companies and said, when are you going to include naturopathic physicians? They called other companies and said, when are you going to allow other naturopathic physicians to come into your hospitals? Literally, one of my colleagues from Bastyr just graduated and got a fellowship at Harvard to teach. I'm asked to come there to teach, to give a presentation. So, but that's because of the people. That's not because of us, right? We're not going to be able, again, in comparison, there's a handful of us. We're not going to make a dent like that. The people have to rise up and say what they want. And that's what's happening. So that's how that's going to happen. But Big Pharma's not going to let go. The medical doctors aren't going to let go. Although this whole thing called integrative medicine, they're trying, but that means they're giving vitamin C for a cold instead of an antibiotic. They really don't understand herbal medicine. They really don't understand nutrition because they don't have it. I don't fault them for it. They haven't had it. You can't do what you don't know. So, but they're aware that it has to happen because patients are asking for it. And they know that it works. Because when I have a patient that goes to their doctors and they say, your pressure is really good, Miss So-and-so, what are you taking? Not the stuff you gave me. I'm taking something else. And they're like, oh, okay. And then they're calling me, right? So that's an indication that things are changing. I get so many, invariably once a month, somebody will come in with a bag of medicine. They're trying to kill me, doc, help me. I mean, a bag. Now, some of the herbs I have in my clinic, you'll think I'm trying to kill you too, but I'm not. Some of the liquid preparations I make, it's like, oh my God, she's trying to kill me. But I'm not, I'm trying to help you. But yeah, so we've come here with, herbs in our hair, herbs in the little bit of loincloth we had on, herbs in our breasts, everywhere, with some of those herbs to plant in those gardens that we had. And we took care of that. And we were the secret doctors. So did that answer your question?
It did.
Okay. It's going to take time.
Yeah.
Mr. Robinson.
Yes. I think I can talk loud enough.
Well, it's for the video. So.
I wanted you to comment on the fact that, all during this COVID epidemic, I heard very little bit about strengthening the immune system.
You heard nothing.
Heard nothing. And I was really, dismayed with that. I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. There's a number of people that have had the shots, they've had the boosters, and they've left here.
Mm-hmm.
Colin Powell, with Marcella's father, great people. But nobody's talking about the immune system.
Mm-hmm.
There are friends of mine who are in the same vein as naturopathics. They're talking about it, and telling people all kinds of information they need to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't hear this in the mainstream media. Nobody's talking about the things one can do to protect oneself. So I wonder if you could just speak on that just for a few minutes.
I'd be happy to. So understand that. Thank you. Understand that most conventional medical doctors operate on the germ theory. You get a germ, you're going to get a disease. We don't operate under that theory. We operate under the vitalistic theory. So that means that you take care of yourself, you support that vitalism, that part of you that heals, that part of you that is the immune system, and you're going to be okay. So what that means is you have to support your immune system with good foods, vitamin C, vitamin D, echinacea from time to time, maybe a little osha root, and don't take it because I'm not prescribing for you, those listening on the video. This is not a prescription, this is just information. And exercise and sunlight and eating well. Most people don't even know what the immune system is. There's a section on the immune system in my book as well, because the doctor will say to you, well, this is your immunity, these white blood cells, these red blood cells. And you just leave thinking, what's immunity? Because you don't know. So there's an explanation in the book that talks about your immune system and what it needs and how that immune system then protects you against viruses and bacteria. But what also protects you is how you take care of yourself. You have to have fertile ground in order to get the virus. There has to be something that's missing, something that you're not doing, whether it's sleep, whether it's vitamin C, whether it's green vegetables, whatever it is. There's something you're not doing that then creates the problem that leads to your immune system being weakened. That's the issue. So no, nobody's talking about that because they want you to take the drugs they have for COVID. And keep in mind, it was most of us that passed from that, right? I mean, you had, and partly because, you can't work remotely if you're the housekeeper in the Red Roof Inn. That doesn't happen that way. Most of the people that died in Chicago, even Chicago is maybe 75% or 25%, 35% black, but 75% of them that passed were African American. That's because of the jobs. Again, you can't work remotely. You got to get on that bus. You got to get on the subway. So we have to understand the importance of taking care of ourselves. I'm happy to say that I had only 3 patients who got COVID during the whole COVID experience. I had patients to come to me with COVID, but I had only 3 patients who got COVID. One went to Las Vegas to a bachelor party. The other went to Las Vegas to a bachelorette party, seriously. And the other one went somewhere else. But nobody else got COVID of my patients. So that tells me that they were doing something correctly, and not fooling around. So that's what I mean by you have to take care of yourself. Because COVID hasn't gone anywhere. It's still here. It's still here. And it's going to be here because we're not taking care of ourselves. We don't value health as a society. We really don't. We've come to a little bit more because of COVID, but we don't value health. We value a whole bunch of other things, but not health. And so that is an issue. So if we have any uprising or any revolt, I say let's revolt against this sad standard American diet, this sad diet. Let's revolt against this sick care system. Let's do something for ourselves that's really meaningful. So no, you're not going to hear about the immune system because they're not going to have time to explain it to you, and they're not going to really believe in it, and they don't believe in vitamins. I've had doctors tell my patients they don't need vitamins. You need vitamins because you don't get the foods that you need to support your system. Vitamins are not natural, however. So don't misunderstand that. Vitamins are man-made. But because we don't get enough of the stuff in the foods, that was a very intellectual comment, stuff in the foods. Because we don't get enough of the nutrients in the foods, then we have to do something else. Vitamins are supplements. That's what they are. But if you eat well, if you drink your water, if you exercise, if you sleep, if you meditate. Why do I harp on meditation? Because this world out here is crazy. And you have to be getting something from inside yourself. Prayer is talking to God. Meditation is listening to God. Right? So you have to listen to what the God is saying inside of you. There is a God inside of you. There is a God inside of you. Each one of us has a God. So we have to listen to that. We can't just walk around numb thinking that we're not a part of this total beautiful creation. And we have to be more creative because my piece of the puzzle has to fit with your piece of the puzzle. So you have to be on purpose in order for me to be on purpose. You have to be on purpose and for your grandchildren and children and nieces and nephews to be on purpose. And it's not too young. You're not too young to start. She's got it.
So I wanted to ask just one more question.
Sure.
Because like example with the COVID, I very intentionally got it. My husband, he had caught it because he's a police officer. And I was like, let me kiss you. And he's like, no, please, you're going to get it. I said, yes, I want to get it because I have natural immunity, right? So I'm curious, will you or have you, because I haven't looked, write yet another book that'll be specific to education on the systems and how they all work together and with nutrition in order for us to heal ourselves, like going just a layer deeper to really say, okay, this is your lymphatic system or this is your immune system,
right,
and how they work independently
and together.
and
Everything
together.
works together. Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's a great question, and my answer is you find me a publisher, I'll write the book. And actually, quite honestly, if I sell enough of these books, I'll have my publisher to do another one. But yeah, everything works together. We're not separate. See, we have this idea that we're separate because we have specialists. You know, you go to a nephrologist for your kidney, you go to a urologist for your bladder, you go to a cardiologist for your heart. They all work in concert. And the thyroid is one of your most important organs because every organ has a thyroid receptor site on it. And that means that the thyroid hormones affect every single organ in your body. So, and the thyroid is affected by stress, it's affected by heat, cold, extremes, it's affected by foods, it's affected by anger. So the thyroid is a very, very, very important organ, and they all work together. We're not separate. We're not separate from our hearts. We're not separate from our vaginas. We're not separate from our kidneys, our livers. No, they all have some way that they interact with each other. So when you go to a specialist, they're only focused on that organ. That's why in naturopathy, I always tell, the first thing I say to my patient is, this, they'll call me and they say, do you treat mucormycosis? That's a disease I made up as a kid. And I'll say, no, I don't treat mucormycosis because I treat people. Oh, okay. Yeah, I treat people, I don't treat conditions. I treat a person who happens to have a condition. I don't treat the condition per se, but in treating the person and the person's story, right, then things begin to change if it's possible. Now, having said that, I'm not God. So there's a relationship here that God, however you call God, whatever you pray to, whatever that is, all it is, God, Mother, Father, God, I use all those terms. There's a relationship and there's a learning when you have a particular condition. There's a learning. Maybe the learning is love yourself enough to get out of this. I don't know the learning. Many patients come to me, especially women, in abusive relationships. How long are you going to be in this relationship? How long? Well, it's been 25 years. Really? And you wonder why you're not feeling well? I mean, literally, this is day in. At least every day I have a patient that's been abused. Every day. So we have to understand that we have to take some responsibility again. And I know it's difficult. You don't want to leave the comforts of your home. You don't want to leave because you're afraid you won't get the income anymore and you don't have anywhere to go. I get it. But you've got to try to find some peace within yourself if you have to stay, right? That kind of got deterred somewhere. Did I answer that question?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Yes. Oh. I can do it.
I wanted to, excuse me, ask about, I guess maybe the prevalence of ADHD and depression in young people, especially nowadays, and I just have an overall interest in how the brain works, and that is collected with the body, as you were saying. So, how would you, or what are your viewpoints on treating things like that, especially with the use of the phone, increasing that screen time? What are your viewpoints on how to educate young people about bettering their habits and treating things that they don't feel like can be treated at all, like ADHD?
So that's a great question. So I've noticed that younger people, such as yourself, are also aware of how quickly time is going. It used to just be people that were older said, gosh, it seems like time is flying. I tell you, it's really something. No, I have 20-year-olds that say that to me now. Why? Because you have to have an answer right away. Because everything is at your fingertips. Because everything is fast. Because you talk fast, you walk fast, you move fast, everything is fast. You talk faster than anything I've ever seen in my life. It's really interesting. If you notice that, that is true. Everything has increased in time, in space, and part of that is the internet. Because you are so, not you, people are so focused on the internet and getting the answers right away and wanting to know everything that's going on in the world all the time, that is what messes up your brain, right? Because your brain, there's a term called neuroplasticity. Your brain can be remolded, meaning there can be new connections that are made, right? But not when you're looking at TikTok all day long, and not when you're looking at, the internet all day long, or seeing what gore is going on there. I advise my patients to take a diet from the news, because the news is terrible. There is no good news. We haven't had any good news since the Chilean miners were released, and that was 20 years ago. I mean, literally. So I advise them, just take 2 days. Maybe watch the news on Monday and Friday. It's gonna be the same news. You're not gonna miss anything. At 3 o'clock. And whatever you do, don't watch it during the time that you're trying to eat, because that interferes with your digestion. So there's something called homeopathy, which I would encourage you to read a chapter in my book. And that treats the whole person as well. And especially, let's say I have a patient that's ADD and they're violent, okay? Let's say I have another patient that's ADD, but they're crying all the time and they're just as sweet as they can be, but they just can't concentrate. Those are 2 different remedies. Our homeopathic remedies come from plant, minerals, or animals, and everything is natural, from the kingdom of nature. So because there are so many remedies, we don't have just one drug for ADD. We have a remedy for a person who happens to be ADD. Now, there's much, much, much controversy about homeopathy, and I get it, because people don't understand it. I get that too. Because basically, we've diluted the substances so much so that there's nothing left of the substance, only the energy of the substance. And that energy goes to the vital force, that thing that breathes us, to then reduce the energy that the body created in response to some situation. Now, that's where you have to have the story. So if I am wanting to reduce the person and their ADD, I have to give them the right remedy that includes they cry all the time. I'm not going to give them the same remedy of somebody that's violent, because that's not who they are. But the diagnosis is ADD. So I'm not treating a diagnosis, I'm treating a person. And everybody manifests their ADD differently, right? So you can, in fact, treat ADD, and I have, with homeopathy. And again, people don't understand it, but it works. And if it was placebo, which is what they call it, then it wouldn't work on babies, and it wouldn't work on animals, and it does. So, but the main thing that we have to be aware of is this internet. That's really important. I mean, you all don't even talk to each other anymore. I see people on dates and they're on their phones. How are you on the phone with a date? That just doesn't make any sense to me. Do you even know who you're sitting across from? No, because you got your phone out. It's like, take the time. Not you again. They don't know how to have a conversation or to socialize. And a lot of that creates the ADD too, because they're in their own head all the time. All the time. They're just perseverating and ruminating. And it's all about, yes, I think I should do this. And no, I'll do that. And I'll do that. No, I'll do that. I mean, I have so many people that now use the word overthinking. I'm overthinking, right? They're overthinking, all right, because they can't concentrate. So everything is a different thought. Everything is a different thought. But that comes from all the fast-paced things that are going on online. So, yeah, I mean, again, that's why I say, do not watch the news before bed, because when I get into bed now, it turns off automatically. Right. Don't turn it on, because you're getting all of those electromagnetic waves. You're getting all of the stuff that's on the TV, so everybody got chopped up and put in the trunk. You're getting all of that. All of that's part of what your sleep is now. And those electromagnetic waves are real. There's lots of studies out of the University of Pennsylvania, where I went to school, talking about electromagnetic waves and how that affects your body and affects your brain. So, because everything is energy. You and I are energy. We're just slowed down so we can see one another. Everything in between us is energy. Right?
We actually have a question on the phone. You can be heard right now. Hello? Hello?
Hi, Dr. Sullivan.
Hi, how are you?
Put it to the mic.
I'm fine. How are you? I'm sorry I can't be in the audience live, but
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. I want to get them to family and friends. Well, thank you. So, some of the people do not live here, and they aren't in areas that I believe maybe really trustworthy homeopathy doctors such as yourself are available. So I want to know if they are, if the book requires us to be reliant on a practitioner.
No, the beauty of this book, in my opinion, is these are just basic things that you can do for your own health. You don't need a practitioner for this. There's information about homeopathy and naturopathy, but you don't need to have a practitioner. My first book, now, having said that, there are herbs in this book and supplements that I wouldn't want you to take without some guidance. My first book has more herbs and supplements that I, again, wouldn't want you to take without guidance, because my first book is really dis-ease based, and I've been using that term for years, dis-ease. So my first book is about diabetes, there's a chapter on cancer, there's a chapter on hypertension, there's a chapter on, but this book is pretty basic in terms of what you can do to support yourself, because it's written for people who are doing too much and need to stop doing so much and focus on themselves. So that's the purpose of the book. Again, you might not have heard me at the beginning, but the fact that we die younger and faster from cancer than other women is just abhorrent to me. The fact that we have more diabetes, the fact that we're obese and overweight, the fact that we have more cardiovascular disease than other women. These are things that these aren't exotic diseases. These are diseases of lifestyle. So I recognize that, yes, stress makes you eat. You know, the person I was talking about that eats the Twizzlers. Okay, I get it. But there can be some substitute for that, or some way that maybe you just go for a 10-minute walk. Small things done consistently make a difference. So no, it's not necessary to have a naturopathic homeopathic physician. And I would go to naturopathic.org to find one, because we are in many, many places now. So if you want to do that, you can go to naturopathic.org. And if that doesn't work, call my office and I can tell you the right website.
Okay, so if you want to do that, you can go to naturopathic.org. If that doesn't work, call my office and I can tell you the right website. Okay, thank you very much, and I'm so glad to be able to get your book and share it with others.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Have a blessed holiday. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you all very much. I appreciate your attention and time. As I said, I know the